Welcome back to the fourth day of the Hearthstone World Championship. I'm your host, Seltzer. I'm here with Robert, and along with our broadcast team, we'll decide our final players moving on to Anaheim for BlizzCon November 6th and 7th.
That's right, Rachel. Yesterday, we had our first four players advance to the round of 8. Thais, Zoro, Osaka, and Daimeng battled and emerged victorious. Today, we will be finding out who else will be joining them in Anaheim.
That's right. These final 8 players will be competing for glory and a piece of the $250,000 to go along with their title. And if players win today, they'll go directly to the BlizzCon main stage finals. The matches are Jab vs. Kuno first. Then we have Life Coach vs. Kranich, followed by Nelio and Hot Form. And then we're going to wrap it up with Purple vs. Ping Ping Ho.
Yeah, it actually looks like today's a day of rebroadcast, but it's actually just a day of rematches, as all these players have played each other already on the first 2 days. Stakes are much higher now, obviously. It's win and advance to BlizzCon, lose and go home.
Harsh, Rob. For the final time this week, players will be competing in a best-of-5 Conquest format. Because we know you love this video, here it is one more time.
Conquest is a match format created for competitive Hearthstone tournament play and is the official match format for the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship. Here's how it works. Each player begins with 3 decks using a unique class for each deck. For example, a player can have a warrior deck, a priest deck, and a warlock deck, but not 2 different warlock decks. When a match begins, each player selects their first deck without telling the other player which one they've chosen to play with.
Kerash versus Uther.
After the first game ends, the winning player's deck is declared victorious and can no longer be used, and they must choose from their remaining decks for Game 2. The losing player may choose to use the same deck they just lost with, or one of their remaining decks. This continues through Games 3, 4, and 5 if necessary. Once a player has conquered their opponent with all 3 of their decks, the match is over and the winning player advances. Conquest will be used at the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship, which has a prize pool of $250,000. Now that you know the format, try taking part in an online tournament or a fireside gathering near you.
So far, Europe has absolutely dominated this tournament, with 2 people already making it to the BlizzCon main stage. Big question today, can North America get on the board, and how will China and the Asia-Pacific region fare?
Well, with that said, we begin Day 4 of the Hearthstone World Championships, led by Kibler, Kriparian, and Frodan.
Thank you very much, Rachel and Robert, and greetings from the Casters decks once again for day number 4 here at the Hearthstone World Championships. It's time to see who is going to go to the playoffs. Out of the 8 remaining players, only 4 will survive. My name is Frodan. I'm joined by Brian Kibler as well as Kriparian to my far right. Gentlemen, it's been a wonderful pleasure so far casting with you guys all week long, but today we come to a close for opening week. What are some of the storylines that are sticking out to you and what you're excited for today, Brian?
I mean, we saw, we're going to see Jab play, I believe, in our next match, and he had an incredible comeback yesterday, just like he did against Trump in the Americas Championship, where he was on the ropes, needed to draw that fireball to stay in it, and it was there for him. I tweeted yesterday, you know, we haven't seen Jab and Archmage Antonitis in the same room. Makes you think.
I believe it's more than just fireball that was required. His opponent had to leave his minion on the board, giving him the only out, which was the last fireball in the deck, and that's exactly what he got.
Yeah, and frankly, the same thing happened against Trump. You know, Trump took a little bit of risky line, just like No Tomorrow did, and in both situations, Jab found the fireball he needed.
That's right. Well, we'll see how it ends up going beyond just Jab. I mean, everything is a rematch today. Let's take a look at the groups to see what we're talking about. In Group A, we once again, like you see in the bottom half of the bracket, Jab versus Kuno, which you also saw happen the very beginning of the entire tournament as well.
Yeah, Jab ended up losing that one at the start.
That's correct. So hopefully that's not the indication if you're cheering for USA. And Group B, we also have another rematch, Kranich versus Life Coach once again for the decider spot.
Yeah, one thing that's really interesting about Life Coach's lineup, it's very good, I think, against the anti-aggro lineups that players like Thais and Osaka have brought. But he did fail to beat Kranich the first time. He's going to have a second go at it now.
And in Group C, we have a rematch between Hot Form and Nelio. This one went Hot Form's way earlier in the tournament, and but it was a very close one. I believe it was the first 3-2 match of the tournament, and it was a real back and forth one.
That's right. Group D was first placed by Daimeng from China. That's 2 players from Europe, 2 from China. Potentially 1 from APAC, as Ping Ping Ho will take on Purple once more. The Shaman God, can he be the second player to advance and the second Shaman?
Yeah, that was another very close match on our I believe second day. where Purple feels like he got a little bit unlucky in his matchup when we were talking to him at dinner the other night.
Sure.
And he's hoping that he can get revenge and make his way to BlizzCon.
That's right. That freeze mage sticks out to when he played against Ping Ping Ho. Like, the fact that the shaman was able to overwhelm him very quickly, using those doom hammers and being able to peck away.
Huge
at the
bloodlust turn. That
That's
was,
right.
I think, what really stood out from that particular game was Ping Ping Ho had a 31-point attack with bloodlust that
That's
really
true.
put Purple on the ropes.
Puts anyone on the ropes.
But most classes
well,
and most
31,
people on the
you're
ropes.
mostly dead, but no, he's playing freeze mage, so he actually was just on the ropes.
And a little bit of a
instead.
buffer with the ice barrier. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll see some of that today. I'm really looking forward to it. We're about to get into action started, and to kick things off, we're going to prepare for game number 1 between Jab versus Kano.
Jab versus no.
All right. Well, the match is about to get underway here. There are, I believe, 3 Americans, or 3 players from the America region that are still in contention
Yes.
to qualify for BlizzCon. We have Jab, which is playing right now, and we have the 2 Canadians,
That's
which
Hot Form and
also
Purple.
have 1-1 scores in the tournament so far.
Asia Pacific, I was going to call it APAC a few times, but Asia Pacific, to clarify the full name, has all of their players remaining. We have Kranich Kano, who you see on screen, and then we also have Ping Ping Ho and Neilio.
Oh, wow.
So all 4 are fighting for contention to go into the top 8. None of them are eliminated. So again, a pretty decent showing, but it's right in the middle. No one's really gone through, but no one's eliminated yet.
Well,
And
those
today
that
we'll see.
have gone through. You mentioned we had 2 Europeans and 2 Chinese players go through already.
Correct.
And the field, if it's 3 Americans and 4 Asia Pacific players, well,
One
with
European left.
expected results, we should expect 2 players from each region at
Sure.
BlizzCon.
With the exception potentially being life coach to upset somebody. We'll see, because that is the next match, Cranch versus life coach. I'm looking forward to it. However, we are going to go into game number 1, Jab versus Kano. It's going to be the Tempo Mage versus the Zoo Warlock.
Generally, this is a matchup where I'd personally rather be on the Warlock side. The Tempo Mage deck is very strong at being able to get out ahead of opponents who only have a couple of cheap minions they're able to play with removal spells, but the Warlock deck has lots of sticky minions, things like Nerubian Egg, things like Imp Gang Boss, that are very difficult to deal with the Mage's damage-based removal spells.
I also just like being on the side that has Void Caller Mal'Ganis in hand.
That's a pretty good opening hand for Kano as well. So
It is. Jab has a reasonable start, too. That's one of the things that the Mage always looks to begin with. Some early card draw and board tempo. With the Mana Worm, you benefit so much off those spell synergies.
Often,
Unstable Portal could also change the dynamic of everything early game.
Often Nerubian Egg is the counter of this deck to Mirror Entity, but I believe Jab has Effigies in as well, so it's kind of not really a play that you'd make so deliberately as against other Tempo Mage decks.
Okay.
Do you need a blessing?
Well, Young Priestess comes down, and you know what? Even though it's only a 1-mana minion, it still might make his board more resilient against things like the Implosion. But for now, the Power Overwhelming draw, wow, off the top.
that's a pretty nice pickup for Kano there. It could potentially allow him to remove that Mana Worm, which is threatening to get kind of out of hand.
Sure. He can play the Imping Boss as well to challenge the rest of the board. If Mirror Entity does come down from the Mad Scientist, the Void Caller would be a little bit of a bigger body than you otherwise want. But
He does have Ironbeak Owl.
yeah.
Or an Implosion he can play to not only develop his board
To
and
stall
neutralize
the
part
effect.
of his opponent, he can effectively generate minions without possibly risking giving his opponent minions from Mirror Entity. Though I believe we have seen that Jab has both effigy and I think a counterspell in his deck, if I recall correctly.
Really? Wow. That's.
I
we've
think
seen
you
that
might be
before.
right, but it's a bit tough. We've seen a few of
He
these
does-
Mage
he-
decks.
It's very secret what exactly his secrets are because there's a variety of them.
Well, actually, I think you're absolutely right because the only other Tempo Mage player, not quite in the
Hot Form.
same fashion, but it is indeed Hot Form, and Hot Form I think is running exactly 2 secrets, and they're both Mirror Entity.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense.
One thing that we've also noticed from this Mage deck is that it had an explosive first game in Jab's first match, but it kind of really struggled to give him the win in the last set, and he almost went home on it, as we mentioned, with that Fireball. It seems like maybe he's just trying to get it out of the way. Maybe he recognized that he requires specific matchups for this deck, and maybe less so in his other 2 remaining decks.
This is a okay. So this reveals to Kano that the secret is not in fact effigy, and then playing Void Caller reveals that it is not Mirror Entity.
Exactly
So it's counterspell.
Exactly.
So now he definitely does not want to spend his 4 mana on his turn to play Implosion.
Yeah, Implosion would just take his entire turn away.
If this is Voice Caller, it's so good because he can trade off and play Mal'Ganis. But that is not the case. He can actually activate with Abusive Sergeant on his opponents.
He could, yes.
That is a pretty
and Knife
fancy
Juggler.
play.
That's an excellent play. You can Knife Juggler, play Abusive on your opponent's 3-1, and then
just get Mal'Ganis down.
Yeah, and you can probably juggle out the other Sorcerer Apprentice.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting play. It looks like Kano may not be going for it. He may just try to play the Juggler to just snipe his opponent's minion off.
Sure, make it more resilient against any board clear. He's going to part ways with his Iron Beak Owl just so he can get that juggle out. He'd rather keep this Abusive Sergeant.
Okay.
So he does still have the option to use that Abusive Sergeant, perhaps to attack into a larger minion. He doesn't get his... Ooh, speaking of larger minions, there's Toshli. That's a very good draw for Jab that turn. Toshli able to potentially fuel his upcoming Flame Wakers thanks to the spare parts it puts in his hand. With
Toshli into Dr. Broom, also pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a very nice curve, but pretty good curve here from Kano of... The Mal'Ganis is coming to play for free on turn 6.
One of those jugglers are what he wanted, I believe. If the 2 juggles actually killed the minion, he would just Abusive the Knife Juggler most likely.
And now Kano is just in a dominating position here with this Mal'Ganis.
goodness.
Void Walker, a 3/5. It's a Ascension Shield Walker for 1 mana.
Yep.
Dr. Boom comes down. It is rare that Dr. Boom comes down and you are massively behind on the board.
Oh, my.
Oh, hi there, Doomguard.
9.
That has to be
14.
That has to be there.
18.
It has to be there.
That's actually a chance for lethal if the dagger hits face, I believe. Or no, is it?
The Doomguard gets +2 attack from
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
you're
it's just
right.
lethal.
You're right.
It's just
It
lethal.
is just lethal.
And if you attack
wow.
first with all the minions, there's no chance that the juggle will kill a Boombot and cause you to lose lethal.
Yeah, and there it is. So Kuno taking a decisive first game against Jab with his Warlock Zoo deck against Jab's Tempo Mage.
Yeah, it turns out a Void Caller that spawns out Mal'Ganis after it attacks twice and spawns juggles from it is pretty good.
Why?
Well, when you compare the mana cost and the stat distribution, it's roughly 3 times what you'd expect to get out of 4 mana.
That's a reasonable deal. Some significant value there.
That's
so
right.
now Jab, he still has pretty solid lineup against what Kano has here though. His Tempo Mage deck matches up a lot better against the Druid and the Paladin, and then I know that he feels comfortable playing his Hunter against anything.
Okay. His freeze, the Tempo Mage is much more important than the Freeze Mage, which is usually very good against one and kind of weak against the other. So you definitely want to even those matchups up. The one thing that always is a big question mark, though, is if Druid happens to line up against another Druid or the Paladin. Both of those classes, which it feels like could go either way, and it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, Kano is playing mid-range Paladin. I know in the last few days in the tournament, we've seen largely the Secret Paladins see play. Kano is kind of going a little bit against the grain, and he's had a decent amount of luck with his mid-range. I believe he's running the Murloc Knight variation, which was a lot of fun to see.
I mean, we got the Murloc right here behind us, so it's sort of the
how could it be
mascot
there
of the
and
cast.
in his deck?
That's right, man. How can there be only 2 Murloc Knights if there's like 15 million people in the world? I don't know the meme. Something like that. But, I mean, it's a good point. We're not sure exactly how this series will pan out. Even though Game 1 is in the books, a lot could happen. We're going to take a break and get to know a little bit more. In the meantime, when we come back, game number 2 between Jab versus Kano.
ID の由来は、元は、キャラクターの名前ですけど、今はノーレッジの頭文字を取ったということにしています。家族や友達は私がハーストーンを、真面目にやってることは知っていて、お金が手に入るのでいいんじゃないという感じですね。
So it's Knowledge. That's what his name is.
Yeah.
But it's Kano.
Or Kuno.
I believe it was Kuno.
Who are you talking about here, right?
I believe D2, one of the BlizzCon representatives from last year,
top
who
4
lives
last year.
he lives in Japan. I believe he knows Kuno and was saying that's how he pronounced it.
That's how Japanese people say his name. So
I
if
actually
we
asked him
want
about
to
it.
be
are we
authentic,
not allowed to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it depends on how you want to say names, right? Like, you could say it the way the native tongue pronounces it, or you can say it the way, you know, us westernized people have unfortunately
butcher it, right?
Butchered the name. Like Los Angeles, right? That's kind of like how we actually call that city.
Well, I asked him about it. We asked if no is okay. And he said, "Yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't really matter."
Are you sure? Or maybe he says, "No, okay."
Oh, I don't know.
Oh God.
But
and he's like, "Well, and he just checkmated you right there, and you're like, "Well played, I concede." Masterful.
This totally didn't happen. But anyway, he basically mentioned that you know he's not too sensitive as some people are with the name thing.
Yeah.
But no, as in like the N-O, like the no of knowledge kind of how we pronounce it.
Yeah.
He said he doesn't like that too much because it seems like it's
negative.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a bit negative and it's kind of easy to forget.
Is that like a hand warmer? He keeps shaking.
It looks like it. One of those heat packets.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little chilly sometimes in the tavern.
We're in California.
We're in a tavern in California, which in the opening line of Hearthstone Client, it says, "It's shut the door, it's cold out there."
Yeah, we've tried to simulate that experience to our players.
It is warm in here by the hearth, though.
Yeah. We have a actual fire right behind us, which you'll see later on
Don't tell
screen.
the fire marshal.
Well, we're going to go with Powtoon versus Mage. This is a matchup
really
that you were saying feels good, right?
Actually, hold on. Like, he just coined Frostbolt against the Zombie Chow. Isn't that surprising? Because if you save the Frostbolt for next turn, you can still hit the Zombie Chow. You gain that life back anyway, but you could do it with a Sorcerer Apprentice, which means you could choose either the Zombie Chow or his play on turn 2. So it feels like you gain flexibility at no price. Isn't that a bit weird?
It is unusual to see a coin Frostbolt Zombie Chow. I think his thinking was he doesn't want to pass turn 1, because if he put out the
This also
Mad Scientist, he get traded pretty easily.
It also allows him to play the Mad Scientist on turn 2 instead of being committed. Oh dear!
What? Hold there.
He's actually not far from Infinite Fireballs. He has the 2 sources.
You're right.
And the Echo Medivh.
Oh my God!
Now he just needs Antonitis
and
a lot of mana to actually cast this and keep them on play.
Even more Sorcerer's Apprentices.
Well, if you get all 4 of them.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Counter
spells. All right, well, True Silver does a very good job of clearing out the seemingly powerful Spell Slinger. Now Jab is kind of struggling a lot. It feels like it might be a turn where you just concede a minion to the second charge of True Silver and just concede the fact that you might still be behind at the end of this.
I mean, I can imagine seeing him play perhaps a Sorcerer's Apprentice and pinging off the Owl there. He doesn't want to play Flamewaker because that is one of his key minions in this matchup, and it would die to the True Silver champion. So
this might be a Flamewaker play with if he's playing the Mana Worm, if he's reaching for the
I would imagine he plays if he played Mana Worm ping instead of Sorcerer's Apprentice ping. Because Sorcerer's Apprentice, playing the 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice in a single turn can give him multi-mana discounts on spells, though. So it's possible that he'd rather potentially sacrifice the Mana Worm.
That's a good point.
The Mana Worm is also something that it needs a lot of immediate synergy to like impact it a lot. Otherwise, it just becomes a very vanilla minion.
He has set up a counter spell for that Demon Heart that Kuno has.
Yeah, he's assured that there is a spell in No's hand.
Demon Heart's a very interesting card because you can use it on friendly demons, but only Warlock is the class that gets demon. I don't believe there's a neutral demon in this set.
There is a neutral demon. It is the...
Illidan.
There is Illidan, and there's also Imp Master. The Imps are demons.
Oh, yes. The Imps that come off
the 3-mana card that damages itself
Yes.
to spawn in. Really? That's fascinating.
I did not know that.
That's today. It makes sense. It makes sense now that you think about it. It's like Imp Master, but wow, Crit. Nice job. Why didn't you win Jeoparino?
Because it's hard to remember things when it counts.
That's right.
Jab, I think Jab may be caught in the allure of this Sorcerer's Apprentice Echo here. He's doing a lot to not play one of these. He does play the Mirror Entity. I guess he goes with the ping here and can clear much of his opponent's board. I would be caught up in the allure of the possibility of getting all these.
You'd really need to get that ping though. I mean, picking off a 2/1 creature is just such a power play.
Yeah, and this Kuno is able to play his Murloc Knight into the Mirror Entity with that True Silver charge back. So he's able to still kill.
He has to attack it first, because if he gets like a Murloc War Leader, it actually buffs it out of range.
That's really good observation, and the sequencing is perfect.
Sylphin Spirit Walker, pretty powerful Murloc, the highest cost Murloc that you can actually get off of.
Oh
Murloc,
man,
right?
what are we playing now?
The dream! Although he needs to
have him survive.
He needs for a lot of things to happen.
He needs to duplicate those sorcerer
He doesn't have
he needs
duplicate.
4.
What he really needs, I think, is like a Spell Slinger into a Frost Nova, just to shut out his 2 Sorcerer Friends from dying from the previous turn.
Right, well, he is getting the Echo off from the Spell Slinger.
I mean, it is value.
Yeah, but now, like, the Murlocs are just going to rampage out of control.
Oh, yeah, now that he has also Quartermaster in hand.
Yeah, so Kuno can just use his hero power, make a Murloc, make a Silverhand Recruit.
Yeah!
Oh, dear.
Wow.
Kuno, that's what I call value.
He raises his hands like, well, what do you want me to do?
All right, well, I guess I have it all.
Is there a secret up right now?
There is. It's the
Counterspell?
Counterspell. And
Okay.
Kuno has just played nothing but minions each
Right.
turn since then. And this is a very difficult board for Jab to come back from. Even if he had something like a Flame Strike, which I don't believe we've seen played in his deck.
Yeah,
Wow, he just concedes on the spot.
So Kuno off to a decisive 2-game lead against Jab here. Jab is 1 game away from going home.
As much as I really love players bringing these, like, wild... In some cases, they may not be experimental because they've had good results in the past, but they certainly look experimental to me.
Tempo Mages.
Right,
Well,
right.
I mean, this is a deck that Jab has actually had a lot of success with in the recent past.
Mm-hmm.
He played it in a large tournament in California the weekend before the Americas Championship at the Esports Arena. He played it at the Americas Championship where he made the top 4. So this is a deck that Jab knows very well and has had a lot of success with, and it's done very, very consistent for him up to this point.
Yeah, just not in the very recent past here at the BlizzCon qualifier tournament. The opening game was so crushing. I was rooting for the deck. I mean, I'm still rooting for the deck because I love the fact that players are bringing such crazy creations to the table. But on the other hand, I think yesterday it went like 2-1, and right now it's 0-2. So
Yeah, you're right. It's struggling.
1-4 over the last 2 days so far. And, I mean, in best-of-5 formats, that is a lot of losses in one specific point.
I mean, you pick up an excellent point. The idea is that for every time it's succeeded, it definitely has some variance to it. It won't win every game either. So even though he's succeeded with it, he's losing where it matters the most. Because if he loses one more game, Kuno is going to be going to the round of 8, and Jab will be stopped here.
But this is the matchup that he's looking for out of Kuno's lineup. This is the best matchup for his Tempo Mage deck, the Druid, where cards like Mirror Entity really shine, and where he can gain a significant tempo advantage from those Mana Worm openings.
All right, well, Kuno has the Innervate, which is pretty effective. He also has the Darnassus, but he's unable to really play anything here. And he's going to have to make some tough decisions if he wants to Innervate a Shredder or play the Darnassus.
And Jab's hand is only okay here. He's drawn 2 of his secrets, which are really cards that you want to get off of your Mirror Entities. You don't really want to pay the full retail price of 3 mana for them.
Retail pricing is terrible.
You
Not very competitive pricing.
Get them on sale, you know? They come with the mad scientist. My prices are mad!
What do you think about this play? He can actually charge out a Drew the Claw to guarantee the trade. But at the same time, against 3 mana, you're probably not struggling much with a taunted Drew the Claw either. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is Flame Cannon, which would kill it anyway.
If he had Fireball here, it would be pretty excellent.
That would be excellent, because I actually have 4 attack on the mana.
Yeah.
Would you have actually reconsidered that because of that option?
I still like Jab's play. If he had charged it, he's open to a lot more things that go wrong that he ends up behind on the board as well, I think. So here we're just going to see the Arcane Blast, Mirror Entity, and just trade in. So this removes the Druid of the Claw from Kuno and gives Jab the Mirror Entity, which is pretty strong.
It's extremely strong against Druid hands, especially the ones that have a ramp, because often ramps are the large portion of your spell. You have to imagine that most of the other cards are just bigger creatures that you'd really want to try to play. And he has to make the play because he knows he's up against Mirror Entity, he knows he's up against Effigy, he knows he's up against Counterspell. So even I mean, in the worst situation, he still doesn't have a choice.
Right.
But he absolutely just has to go for it every time.
I mean, he does have the option to possibly have just played Keeper of the Grove and shot his opponent's face. But
I don't like that at all.
I know. I'm just walking through the possible options here. But that would have ended up going poorly for him as well. So this...
Speaking of poor results, the Shredder does pop out a 2-1, which means it does get killed off by that hero power.
None of that, but it stays alive this turn. You deal with the board, and you have a very nice effigy setup.
Yeah, this is pretty scary for Kuno here because you think that this is... I don't know if we've seen 2 mirror entities in the same game out of Jab. He does have quite a few secrets. So here Kuno can actually just play the Azure Drake into the secret.
Oh, boy.
That's a very good draw.
Yeah, he has to Frostbolt, though. He doesn't want to trade off his 4-1 because that's the most likely creature to die. He wants the most potential value out of the
That's right.
This does offer a pretty nice swipe for Kuno next turn.
It does, but who is hiding behind that Pilot Shredder?
It's still fine. Like, really, Jab absolutely needs the effigy trigger this turn because if he plays Dr. Boom, it'll probably trigger on a Boom bot.
And this is a heads-up play from Kuno here, playing
Oh,
the...
happy Halloween!
Oh, dear.
That is one of the scariest things.
And the Dread Steed!
All right.
As far as possible effigies are concerned, that's one of the less scary ones, but the Totem Gold coming out of the Shredder, that's scary.
I think both these outcomes are reasonably scary.
Yeah, I think they're both very scary because the Druid is really running very low on life right now. And that weighed into basically the stickiest minion in the entire game.
Well, it is a minion that you know, at least if it stays in play, the stickiest. But if it stays in play, it's only doing 1 damage every turn, and it's not putting a huge amount of immediate pressure. But Dr. Boom, that's a lot of immediate pressure.
It's also one of the prettiest cards in the game. If you if you want to craft
glorious.
one golden card,
Fireball here will actually give him the game.
Jab is known for drawing fireballs when they will win the game.
It said 2 damage.
I believe it's a Flame Waker into double Arcane Missiles.
Okay.
So that's
that can also win the game.
kind of like a fireball, except, well, maybe
And the Boom bots can close the gap if required.
Yeah, this looks like it is.
That's just lethal right there.
Wow, good stuff.
So after losing 2 games of this Tempo Mage deck, Jab picks up the game against Kuno's Druid deck, and he's not done yet.
He's not done yet. He's staying alive in the tournament. Game 3 gives him some life, but he has to beat this Druid deck 3 times in a row, and he used one of his best decks to do it.
What we've seen so far from Jab is, in his opening game against No, he actually just had really bad luck with his Hunter. He is playing mid-range Hunter. He had the better opener every time, but he actually got crushed in the mid-range every time, playing mid-range Hunter. So that kind of sucks. But really what we've seen in the later stages of the tournament, and today especially, is the Mage deck really struggling. And it is an aggressive deck. So my main concern for Jab, because the players have to stick to their decks for the end BlizzCon tournament, the players who have already qualified are actually playing decks that really punish aggressive decks. So not only do we have a deck that has been fairly inconsistent, but has to actually beat lineups that are completely countering.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough road to come back from, but it's not impossible. Jab did struggle a little bit, not just being able to win with his mages, but he's also been struggling to just get to the finals every single time. Last year, he got stopped in the Americas Regionals, similar to Nyria and Tice, 2 players who have also gone through that journey as well. And he had a little bit to say about it when we sat down with him.
I think the moment I qualified for this tournament was the happiest point of my Hearthstone career so far, because last year I made it to regionals as well and just fell short, so it's good to be able to finally achieve this. Since I was so close last year, I knew for sure that I could improve and then finally get to where I wanted to be as a player.
Well, he doesn't want to go home here. He's 1 game away still from elimination. Kuno is 1 game away from being the first Japanese player to make the top 8 playoffs in BlizzCon for the Hearthstone World Championships. 2 really cool stories.
Asia-Pacific player.
First Asia-Pacific player this year.
Yep. Lot on the line. I mean, Jab made it certainly a stage higher than last year, but
that's progression.
He doesn't want to end here. Nobody wants to end here. All the games we have for you guys tonight are going to be for those spots, for those critical spots to be able to play at BlizzCon to eventually become the Hearthstone World Champion.
And not surprisingly, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying he's also the last USA member. So, you know, for the homeland America, to keep on the torch that Firebat has passed.
Well, there are 2 representatives of Crip's homeland here. We do still have 2 Canadians. It's
true.
I personally think, in my completely unbiased opinion, that it would be even more amazing if Canadians took home the win in the end.
So
I wouldn't mind passing the torch that way.
Jab here.
Oh!
With his mid-range Hunter deck, this is the deck that Jab
Welcome to the Grand Tournament.
This is the deck that Jab is the most known for. He made a name for himself even before he had a lot of tournament success as a player who innovated on Hunter strategies, specifically mid-range Hunter. And this is a deck that has brought him very far, and unsurprising that he's relying on it when he's back against the wall here.
The bow is such a huge play here. It's just the absolute perfect answer. And not only does it answer that card, it sets up for a tempo play next turn, as Noah is back on 3 mana now that he's triggered the death rattle. So really anything he plays there is not going to fare too well against the bow of Jab from last turn.
Kuno does have that wild growth. So he's able to set up to potentially play either Druid of the Claw or Azure Drake next turn, while Jab has a decision between playing this Haunted Creeper or just playing a Houndmaster by itself.
He's been cornered into Houndmasters, like solo Houndmaster plays many times throughout this tournament. But I think this is an opportunity to really play one. The Freeze Trap will likely protect the Haunted Creeper, because you're really never going to waste the spell to kill a Haunted Creeper. You're just not going to do that, right?
It's tough to get rid of a Haunted Creeper without giving away quite a bit of value here. Though speaking of which, Jab actually picked up a Web Spinner, which is another possible option for him to boost with that Houndmaster.
Yeah, the thing is, because he has the Freeze Trap up, I think he's not really interested in clearing the Druid of the Claw, even though he can.
Maybe. I mean, he has the option to potentially attack with his bow, boost his spider, clear off the Druid, and play the Web Spinner, leaving himself with a reasonable amount of stuff on board. That board would be very vulnerable to swipe, however.
Yes.
Yeah. But swipe would take the entire turn. However, he also does miss out on potentially getting the Houndmaster value. So this is the most stats on board, which I can get behind.
And the trap value, it would cycle another charge on his weapon.
This does give Kuno an excellent opportunity to use Keeper of the Grove to silence that minion.
Yeah.
And now the Wrath will take out the Houndmaster, leaving
super value.
Yeah, leaving Jab without the ability to easily clear off this Druid of the Claw.
The kill command is still pretty useful here.
It is. He can use kill command in one of his minions to clear off the Druid. That does allow Kuno to return his Keeper with that freezing trap the next turn, however.
Oh well.
I mean, that's kind of a big deal. The Keeper of the Grove is one of the answers to Jaime if the game becomes an attrition battle, which is starting to become the scenario that they're using a lot of their resources, and yet neither of them are in danger of being
6 mana Keeper of the Grove isn't really that great of an answer to Jaime.
It's about if the response is on board, though. Like, it knows cards are going to be stronger card for card outside of the Dr. Boom.
Oh, that's a good kill command now. He ended up getting a minion he could play along with it from the Web Spinner.
Yeah, this does make his turn significantly stronger, because previously he was in a position where he would be forced to essentially just cast kill command and do nothing else. But getting the Raptor off of Web Spinner gives him a little bit of additional value here.
Yeah, I think here, even though we'll be able to replay the Keeper of the Grove after a freeze trap, that just makes it so you get a clean Dr. Boom, and you're totally into that one.
And Jab does still have the Eaglehorn Bow up. Eaglehorn Bow gains an additional charge anytime one of your traps is triggered. So here, Kuno does have the opportunity to return his Keeper with the freezing trap, but he doesn't want to give Jab an extra charge.
I think also because he has Force of Nature, which can activate that, and then he can use his Keeper to stay on board and have better combat.
I really like the double trade here. Double trade and playing the Dr. Boom seems very strong.
Looks like he is deciding to use his bow charge, however. I think he may recognize that
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that he may
not
recognize
getting that extra charge.
Well, or even that the pace of this game is such that the extra charge is less important than having the additional minion on the board.
Okay. That could be the case. Kuno draws the Innervate, which gives him access to 10 mana.
That can potentially allow him to play both Force of Nature and swipe.
That is a board clear, I believe.
So,
oh, no,
depends on the boom bots, I believe.
Well, you would attack first and then swipe, right?
Right.
So you
oh, yeah,
attack
okay. It
everything,
is a board
and then
clear.
swing.
So you're
Two
able
treants
to
into the Dr. Boom, the 2-4 into the Raptor, and then Mercy of the Bootbots.
Just cross your fingers.
They are not merciful. Spoiler alert.
Throw some salt over the shoulder. No.
No mercy.
You know what?
Oh, mercy.
They were somewhat
okay.
merciful.
Okay.
So he did dodge some of those cracks in the sidewalk before he got to his match today.
Okay. I think we're actually going to see maybe even just a silence play here.
Well, he could squeeze in the hero power and then play Houndmaster. His opponent did use 2 rats. The reason why Freezing Trap feels weak though is because you know your opponent bounced a Treant back.
Right.
Yeah.
So he can just play another Treant.
Yeah, this is a little unusual choice from Jab here to just play this Freezing Trap when he does have that information. Kuno has the opportunity
to play something, though. You can't play nothing. You have to play a Houndmaster.
It's a very rough spot for Jab here, for sure.
It doesn't die to that Treant.
It's true.
Fortunately. Oh.
That is quite the draw, considering that
You can
he can
bounce your
bounce the
Treant again,
Treant back
and then
make it
discount it.
cheaper.
Yeah. Treant for 2. Yeah, this is
Dude, this Treant.
It's not a lot of
He
work.
has the biggest case of being blue balled. He just wants to go in and attack, but he just can't. Keeps getting denied.
I think after this game, Jab will never watch Bob Ross play again.
It just, you know,
This Treant
can't
is
handle the
beautiful.
trees. The happy little Treant.
Wonderful. No mistakes. No misplays. Just happy Treants.
Oh, God.
No is counting, by the way, in case he might have some ability to close out the game with two chargers in hand. That
Yeah,
makes
it's not
Savager really
quite there.
powerful.
A Savager would be lethal, actually.
Right, if he
But
was able to grab it.
he doesn't currently have that card.
He's got 2 sticky minions. 1 good Shredder deserves 2 others.
Yeah, 22 life, you're really not afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be a little bit afraid because your opponent played nothing with 3 cards in hand. You know there's some bad things headed your way, but playing the double Shredder makes it a situation where it's almost impossible your opponent will be able to prevent them from doing anything next turn.
Animal Companion. I don't think an Animal Companion who can really get Jab out of this.
Oh, well, Leok
that
does
is
help.
not a bad start.
Leok with this Unleash is pretty strong.
He also could get like another way to buff some of those dogs, right? Oh wait, based off the positioning, no.
The positioning is problematic, but he didn't really have a choice in the matter, unless he played Unleash first before Leok.
What?
Ooh, okay.
Patient Assassin. And Kano even claps. Says, you know what, bravo.
What if you just taunt Leok here? That's good enough. And you just go face.
That is actually quite
for 6.
powerful. Yeah, no, this is a good turn of events from Jab here.
Garrison
We see
Commander.
that Patient Assassin on the screen. It is a deadly touch minion, as it were.
It is. That minion, anything it touches, dies.
Got a poison
Except
blade.
for Divine Shields. That's something that I found out the hard way.
Well, doesn't damage them.
When I was first playing Hearthstone, I was like, okay, and then just got wrecked.
All right,
So that is 6 health.
That was a really big turnaround.
Oh,
Savage
my
Roar,
goodness.
though, with 2 charges in the hand.
I think
believe that might be enough.
Yeah, I think
Each
that's
of those
lethal.
charges, we're going to see a cat come down.
certainly.
That happy little tree, he's happy he gets under the action here.
That's right. And guess who just got his ticket to the round of 8 playoffs? It is Kuno from Japan, as he is going to Savage Roar and close it out, sending the final American player home.
Final USA player.
Well, do you consider yourself American, Crip?
North America.
Yeah.
I saw you eating some fries
He
yesterday.
played the Americas Championship.
Yeah.
Some freedom fries you were eating yesterday. Were
They're
they
good.
delicious? What did they taste like, Creed?
Half of them were. They were like freedom chips. Those weren't very good.
It tasted like democracy is the answer to that question.
Oh, my bad.
It's a 3-1 victory for Kano, as he is the first Japanese player in HWC history to make it to the round of 8. Congratulations. What a wonderful set of events to be able to see him come all the way here to America. And I feel like he just played that pretty solidly, using pretty solid decks.
Yeah, and the real problem in that game was really the Mage. Jab realized that he'd probably struggle to get a win, so he just threw it out there, and threw it out there again, and then threw it out there the 3rd time. The 3rd time he got the win, but it was a pretty big disadvantage to come back from.
Right.
It just so happened that I think a lot of players coming into this tournament teched a lot of their decks to be able to deal with aggressive decks. And when you have that issue plus the possible inconsistency of the randomness nature of the Mage tempo deck, bad things can happen. And unfortunately for Jab, it happened to him.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can very clearly see that Kuno was anticipating a lot of Druid. That's what he wants to target with the Zulok, with Paladin, which is generally one of the better decks against the Druid. And then you have, the Druid be able to face off against it as well. And so Jab was trying to avoid playing the Druid and make it more of his anchor. Like, I'll use this as my final win. But when you lose, like, against the Zoo and you have that Hunter still up, it's like, that's painful. You want to be able to get that Hunter win very quickly. And as a result, even though Jab does end up falling here, I think he had a great run. And I think Kuno's dream is still alive. He's waiting with Rachel for a couple of words about qualifying for the round of 8.
That's right, Dan. I'm here with our winner, and I want to ask, you look so serious when you're sitting in that chair, but you're such a happy guy. What are you thinking about that's so stressful? Besides the game, of course.
Like, if I lose this game, I have... even if I lose, I have to stay America 1 more week. But if I lose, I have nothing to do. So I didn't want to win this. That's why.
You didn't want to be stuck in California with nothing to do for a week. That's a heck of a reason to win. Now, I want you to tell me a little bit about the Japanese Hearthstone scene. You've recently received the Japanese language client, and a lot of the pros are really excited.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe a number of Japanese player increase because due to Japanese version, and yeah, that's pretty good.
A lot more competition for you, right? So the last question I have is, you were a competitive RTS player. You played MOBA competitively, and now you're a professional Hearthstone player. What was it about Hearthstone that you really loved as a competitive game?
Because that's just because I'm good at Hearthstone. That's why. There's no reason.
Just because you're good?
Yeah.
That's a heck of a reason to play. I'm going to give it back to our casters. Don't go anywhere. We got more games for you.
Words from Kuno Senpai himself. Turns out the Japanese server is pretty good, Crib.
No comment.
He's like, oh yeah, I can say that in my YouTube videos. Well, that's a really good opportunity to just, talk a little bit about the amazing diversity that we do see from the backgrounds of players. A lot of people don't really anticipate Japan being able to get this far. But is that a really big surprise for you, Kibler?
No, the Japanese players have a lot of history of success in other collectible card games, and there's a period they were actually exceedingly dominant. So seeing Japanese players do very well in Hearthstone is not at all surprising.
I think just seeing a wide diversity of players from everywhere doing well in Hearthstone is no surprise. I mean, Hearthstone's a game where if you really pick your spots, if you put the time in, if you just practice a lot, you can be great player. We've seen players, as young as 13, I believe, qualify for BlizzCon, and I wouldn't be surprised if next year we have a retired American or anything like that qualify.
I'm not that old, Crib.
We'll
not
see.
that old.
Okay. Ooh, wow. Well, we're going to diffuse a little bit of that tension off stream. But in the meantime, we're going to thank all of our sponsors that help make this possible. Make sure to check out all their products as well for supporting us for the HWC 2015, which is the hashtag on social media. Let us know what you think, your predictions, especially for the upcoming match. It's Life Coach versus Kranich, the rematch for the top 8 when we return. In the meantime, check out these highlights brought to you by Windows 10 Game DVR.